Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between. Welcome to 2 Minutes to Midnight. My name is, of course, Kexman, and today I am very honored, very thankful. I have an incredible guest with us here on this first episode. It is MrGM. How are you doing, buddy? How is this Tuesday morning treating you?
Hello there. It's all right. I just started working. I've literally just been doing this other video for like 4 days straight, and it was kind of driving me a bit insane. So now I'm doing something else, and it was kind of fun. And then I was like, you know what? This video is coming out great as well. So it's been a beautiful Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a good day. Sometimes when you're having those moments with videos, you need a little something to distract you or change what you're doing because it can get a little bit frustrating. I can understand that one, completely understand that one. And obviously with the Midnight Alpha in full swing, we are in the second week. It is video making time, I suppose. There's been a lot that has been going on. We've obviously had our two phases. We've had the first phase that had Eversong, and now we're in Zul'Aman. So far, how are you feeling about Midnight? Is there anything that has jumped out at you? Is there anything that you're not too sure of?
It's obviously only the second week, but yeah, it's been pretty good. I watched I must have been a Taliesin video. He was talking about how like his concern about the delves like being just outside areas that we've already been to was a bit of a concern, but then that turned out it was fine with Zul'Aman because we've obviously got two delves that are basic. Well, one delve at least that's kind of unique in regards to how it looks and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I really like the setting. I think that just makes everything better. You know, Eversong Woods was sick, Silver Moon is great, and then Zul'Aman has just been phenomenal. I was a little bit concerned that Zul'Aman was going to be super small, but it turns out it wasn't. It was just the map being weird, but yeah, it's sick. I'm looking forward to this probably next week actually, because next week we have level 90, and then we get to look at like Prey and all this other end game sort of shenanigans as well, which would be fun.
Yeah, the prey system looks really interesting. And I'm also very hyped the fact that we are seeing areas like Zul'Aman, like you mentioned. You thought it was going to be quite small, being expanded out on. Really, really like that. I'm very, very fond of the way that they have updated a lot of the troll areas and updated Eversong as well. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. We also have, I imagine, there's probably going to be a build this week that features the next zone as well. So there's going to be a lot of exploring happening there. We're dealing with a Harania, which is something that a lot of people have been super interested in, especially the character customizations. And I suppose with character customizations, there's a lot of information in regards to, you know, that we're getting the trolls as well. With the Zandalari trolls will now have the Amani troll customizations, and it does feel as though Blizzard, especially with Midnight and updating the zones, are now beginning to get into a position of players have been asking for this for a really, really long time. We're now ready to deliver on it. And the big one, player housing, of course. That one has been such a huge thing for the community that have been asking for it for years, and we've now finally been able to play with that one. How's your experiences with player housing gone so far? Not only from building the housing, but obtaining everything. How do you feel like that system's working for Midnight, and how the community is going to react to it?
I've never really played with player housing in any other game than The Sims and Island. What is it? What was it called? Animal Crossing. That's what it was. I guess that's player housing.
Animal Crossing. That is player housing. That's pretty much player. Sims and Animal Crossing are pretty much player housing the game.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the system in general, just because I just feel like I'm very uncreative with that kind of stuff. I'm more excited to see what other people make. Like, I live on the Alpha. I currently live in the same town as Taliesin, so I see his house with the big hello sign out the front. And
did they make it a shop?
Yeah, it's like a shop. He just has all these other houses he's gathered from around him as well.
Or stolen, as the case may be.
Yeah, he borrowed them.
Literally took somebody's house on the Alpha, which was hilarious.
That's literally incredible. But yeah, I have some concerns, but I don't know if it's concerns that are just features of other player housing things. Like, I don't like the fact that everything is limited. I think that not everything should be limited, you know? Like, it's a bit annoying having to go buy like a million bits of fence and stuff like that. But I guess I don't know, maybe people like that. But it's been all right. I actually have been enjoying it a bit more than I thought. But I just I'm not very creative, as I said. I just put a load of crap down, and maybe it looks all right. I don't know, but I don't really understand what you do after you've made it. Like, you just stand there and go, "Hey, look at my stuff." That was kind of the thing. So the thing I wanted to test was the endeavors, but that's not available on the alpha at the moment. So yeah, it's sick though. I said, I like the fact that you can just kind of walk past someone's house and see the cool stuff they've made.
I think that's the big thing, is like you said, it's that world of, okay, I've made my house, I've done everything that I need to do, what's next? And I imagine it's going to be a case of patches will add new things, we'll have brand new items that we can put into the houses, maybe a world where we have, I don't know, multiple plots. Maybe, we've got player housing and I'm already here being like, oh, we need more than one house. More than one house is needed. Maybe I'm being a little bit greedy on that regard, but the idea that you can change the houses as you want to, and I'd love the ability to save houses. So you keep the same plot, but it's a case of, oh, this week I want to be in my orc house, and this week I want to be in my, I don't know, human house or blood elf house, or, being able to save layouts and such. I haven't fully explored the player housing system yet, because I get a feeling that I'm going to be stuck in that system for a very long time when it comes out, which I believe 11.27 is when we're actually getting the first iteration of housing, kind of in the midnight pre-patch, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Well, yeah. Well, 2.7 isn't the pre-patch, but it's a War Within patch. It's like the early access. They were supposed to put it up last night, and they said that, I don't know when you're putting this out, but it's Tuesday today. They were supposed to put it up last night, and there was a big thing, and it was all singing and dancing, very exciting. It's coming out at 7, and then they put out a post saying it's been delayed. And I kind of woke up this morning thinking, oh, maybe it's just delayed a couple hours. No, they just haven't said anything. They just said it's delayed, so that's concerning.
I mean, with something like that, it is such a big thing that they are putting onto the servers, and it's on the PTR, so I'm wondering if there is a slight issue with trying to get housing onto the PTR, which is not the midnight patch but the War Within, and it's a very, very strange one. We've funny you mentioned that, because this isn't the first time that we have had some tech issues, specifically with accounts, specifically with World of Warcraft, over probably the last 2 to 3 weeks, because we had there was obviously the creator sort of summit that we had, where we had access to the alpha for a couple of days. Then the alpha was released on the Thursday to pretty much as many people as they could in that wave. Then we had the second wave, but there was that brief period where people just lost their access to WoW. A lot of people just lost their accounts, and it feels as though with the midnight alpha and with some of the stuff they're adding into the system right now, are we starting to see a point of the systems themselves are starting to crash down on the game code? Because I don't know about you, but it does feel as though the past couple of weeks have been really, really weird with accounts, with the game in general, and some of the stuff that we're seeing from the back end. Are we starting to see a point of it's getting too much for a game that is, or a game code and a game engine that at this point, is decades old?
They tried to fix something, I think, and then it broke even more things, which I guess comes back to everything being old. And then they reverted it. But then, obviously even more recently, like Legion Remix launched, and everyone had Mage Tower Druid appearances, and it was just, a bit of a nightmare. Well, I don't even know how they even achieved it, but I think in the end they just kind of reverted whatever they were trying to do. They probably should have done whatever they were doing, not when the alpha was launching or just launched, because it wasn't very nice for people. And as you said, it broke retail as well, which is hilarious. I don't know. It is a bit weird that they just have fully delayed this testing for probably an entire day at this point. But hopefully it's a good thing. Maybe like maybe it's maybe they ran into an issue that they're like, okay, we definitely need to fix this before launch, and then they're doing that perhaps. But that's just maybe me huffing hopium, perhaps maybe.
The copium is strong with this one. I mean, it is one of those situations where I think and they've even acknowledged the game engine is something that is relatively old, and they've even made points of saying we are working to create a much more stable game engine for the future, and I don't think it's anything that should stop them in regards to creating new things for the future. And speaking of creating new things for the future, we touched upon it earlier in regards to the changes to the game world, the updates to Eversong, to Zul'Aman. What we're seeing, something that has been around for, again, over a decade at this point with, the TBC version of Silvermoon and Eversong has now finally been updated. Did you find it interesting when they said they were worried about updating these? Is that something that you think they were initially worried about, and now we're in a situation of they've seen the mostly positive reaction to these changes? Do you think this is their moment where they go, actually, we can start to update the old world? Because we've been with the quote-unquote old world now longer than we had the original, because obviously Cataclysm, we saw a huge change to the world. That has been like that longer than OG vanilla Warcraft. Is this the tipping point for them to start updating a lot more in Azeroth, do you think?
Yeah, it's weird that they were scared of it, because I feel like that's such good fan service to update stuff like that. Like, people love it. So it's weird. But I guess like having the option to go back to the old version just makes it fine, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's like not even, it's a whole load of nothing. But yeah, I don't know why anyone would be upset or annoyed about it, because I think it's sick. It's really cool to see Silvermoon and Eversong and things like that being updated. Some of the original stuff is like some of the older stuff in the game, right? Like art assets and whatnot. Because obviously vanilla kind of got wiped out a little bit. But yeah, some of the oldest, 2007, I think it was. So
That
it's
makes me
really
feel
cool
really
to see it
old.
upgraded.
Makes it
Yeah.
2007. Like, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. That was a very, very long time ago. And you make a great point in that because of what happened with the Cataclysm and the changes to the world, these are probably the oldest art assets in the game, I'd probably say, which is wild to think about. And with changes, obviously, to Eversong, there's pretty much anything is on the table right now. And I wanna know. We're in an imaginary world. We've transported to a different reality. MrGM is now in the position where he can turn around and say, right, this is the zone, or this is the area we are going to be revamping now for the next expansion or the next patch. All new assets. It's going to be done in the same vein as Eversong, Zul'Aman. We're going to get new everything effectively. Where are you going in Azeroth, and specifically, what is it that you would potentially want to see with your chosen area?
I think we'll see it in 12 months' time, but it's probably Grizzly Hills, I would say. Like, seeing the new Zul'Aman had that kind of vibe with the trees and the lighting, and there was like a low-lying fog in some areas, and just I think they could do an absolute number on making Grizzly Hills again, and I think it could be potentially one of the best zones they could ever make. And even now, like looking back on Wrath, it's still like an amazing looking zone. So I think with all the art assets and the skills that they have right now, they could make a banger.
That's actually, and also interesting you say that, because you mentioned that, in fact, 12 months' time, we may see something like this. We know that we're dealing with Midnight, but it's fairly, I mean, knowing how the development team work, knowing how Blizzard work, it's pretty known that they are also working on The Last Titan, which very, very excited to see how this story's going to go. Grizzly Hills is interesting because we know that there was obviously a Worlds Tree there at some point. We're dealing with a Harania right now. Grizzly Hills as an updated zone could be very, very interesting to see if we see a big Harania sort of, a Harania presence in that zone. And obviously the brand new allied race, very excited for. Are you surprised that we're not getting actual we're getting obviously Amani customization. Speaking of allied races, are you surprised that we're not seeing an actual Amani troll allied race or a high elf allied race? Because they've mentioned that they only really add these when they, as they mentioned, like quote unquote, make sense. But I feel like at some point you've just got to add them because people really want them to be, you know, people want to play these races. It's the same with, you know, people always ask about ogres and they always ask about Naga. And at some point I feel like rip the band-aid off. Let's just start having people be ogres, be Naga, be Amani troll. Let's just rip that band-aid off and let people enjoy creating those races. And maybe we'll see that after the last Titan. We don't know what's going to happen after that, but it does feel as though, you know, I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually funny you mentioned that. That's literally the video I'm doing now. So before the thing I was saying that I'm working on a video. It's it's literally
exclusive.
looking at the Armani customizations. So I've kind of looked at the model and there's some like, I mean, there's probably not enough for a playable race. There is 11 hair colors though.
That's actually pretty impressive.
11 hair colors, 5 skin colors, 3 hairstyles, one of them being bald. Sideburns,
The greatest
a beard.
hairstyle. I want to
Exactly, yeah, I've
oh,
heard that.
beards. Grox will be happy. I
There's
see.
one beard. Well, it's just
Oh.
one. It's like a little
Oh.
thing. 2 tusk options. There's an option to put skin, like bones, through your skin, which is pretty cool. And piercings. So there's quite a lot there. They could probably, you know, if they were going to be playable, expand them. Like the male one is based off the troll model, so in theory it wouldn't be that much jigging to make gear work, and the female is based off of the female orc, funnily enough.
Okay.
So,
I mean, stuff like that. I don't know whether they're, because we have the Armani troll customization for Darkspear, and I feel like if they were going to add them as a playable race, they wouldn't have done the customization. Because at that point, it kind of makes the customization a bit of a moot point, because you then can have just the Armani. Although I suppose it depends on whether people prefer to use the old, that, you know, they like the old troll model. This will be a quote unquote new troll model. I know that we have Zandalari troll, which is a slightly different model as well. You know, there's stuff they can do with it, which is good to see that we have stuff like that in the game. And speaking of, you know, the stuff that you're uncovering, I just want to kind of touch upon, you know, sort of your workflow and how you approach the alpha, because for those of you that don't know, MrGM is kind of big in the Warcraft scene when it comes to like PTR content, when it comes to data mining and such as well. So I suppose my first question is, when you're looking at the alpha, when you have something like this that drops, is there a difference in your workflow to when, say, a PTR patch drops for like a 0.1? Is there a different way you approach this, or is it effectively the same, just on a much larger scale?
It's weird, isn't it? Because the alpha, and I think they did this with Dragonflight and in War Within, where they do like the, you know, weekly zones sort of thing. A lot of it at the moment is just kind of like making notes of random stuff I find while I'm like playing the game, and I'm just like, okay, that could be something later, or this is kind of weird, or this quest is missing, or whatever. Like, there's not a ton of video like overviews of stuff beyond like looking at zones and models right now, because there's no real systems in, apart from, you know, maybe a bit of profession stuff here and there, but even that's, you know, subject to change. So right now it's like, and obviously housing is kind of a big thing. Like, I just put out the video about achievements stuff in housing or whatever. So really, it's a bit of a weird one. Like with the PTR, it's, especially recently, the PTRs have been a lot more complete when they've launched. So there's been like a lot of the endgame systems, or a lot of the systems of the patches and things like that in there. So you can instantly start working on, you know, guides and overviews and things. Whereas this is just like more streaming content, if anything. And then like stuff like, you know, looking at Armani models, or looking at the customization for the Haranir, or, you know, it's random stuff like that, until we get into like endgame and beta, and then we look at prey and the zone activities. There's like loads of those as well and stuff, and, you know, whatever. But yeah, I feel like there's just way more. Like, I have a Trello list that I use to plan videos and shorts, and it's just full. Like there's a lot, and it's been kind of nice doing shorts recently. I haven't really done them before, but now I started doing them again. I've kind of dipped here and there, but it's really nice to be able to cover really smaller features through shorts, because the videos are only 1 to 3 minutes long. So it's really great to be like, hey, this is the skywriting changes. It's no more vigor, and then that's kind of it. Like, it's not worth doing a whole like 6-minute video about it, you know?
Yeah,
So
I know what you mean.
Been kind of good.
I mean, it's interesting you point that out as well, because as you mentioned, PTR patches normally drop complete. You know, it'll be, oh, here's point 1, this new zone, this new system, these class changes, X, Y, and Z, boom, and it drops in one go. Whereas, as you mentioned with the alpha, it's very much a, hey, phase 1, we're doing these 2 dungeons, this zone, you're having, you know, these class changes, and then phase 2 is, okay, we're closing this zone, we're opening this zone, you've got these 2 dungeons, these changes, and then it'll be, I think phase 3 we've got the Haranir zone, and then phase 4 is obviously the Void zone. And then, as you mentioned, you do end up in a situation where you've got endgame content, you've got Mythic Plus, you've got Raids dungeons. Is that, do you feel like, I mean, outside of, from a content creator point of view, from what you do you feel as though that is a better way for Blizzard to test things? Or do you feel as though it is better for a larger drop of content for people to kind of sift through?
No, it's way better doing the zones and the fragmented release. Like, I've done every quest in Zul'Aman, side quest, main quest, picking up random treasures, and I probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't the only zone available. So I definitely think it's a better way to do it. One thing I wish they would do was invite more people. It's like,
oh yeah,
infuriatingly quiet, you know. It's like, I wish they would invite more people really badly, because, you know, dungeon queues aren't popping. Like, thank God for the follower dungeon system.
I was just about to say, I finished off, I was like, oh, okay, I'll do, so the first week, obviously when we had the Content Creator Summit, it was a very, I mean, we only had, what, 24 hours, I think it was, to make videos from the access that we had, which, you know, was, again, very, very thankful for Blizzard. An extra 12 hours would have been really nice, taking the pressure off a little bit, but, you know, a huge thank you to Blizzard for that. But we had people that were effectively on there for the vast majority of the time. Dungeon queues were fine, whereas I was doing videos for the latest phase for Zul'Aman. I finished the main story and was like, right, okay, let's take a look at the 2 dungeons, let's find out. And I remember I was in the queue for about 10 minutes and went, this isn't popping. I looked at how many people were online, specifically on the Horde, and I think there were 7 people online. And this was at like 6, 7 p.m. EU time, so it wasn't exactly, it wasn't like a 3 a.m. job. This was pretty peak time for the EU, so I was hoping for a little bit more people. So yeah, again, thankfully, the follower dungeons were working. If, you know, not exactly mapped out for the followers. Den of Nalarak, the followers did struggle in slightly, but we managed to make it through there. So inviting more people is always good. Do you feel as though there's a slight, I don't want to say imbalance, but Blizzard seems to be very, very cautious on who they invite to the alpha. They don't want to flood it too early, but also, as you mentioned at the same time, having more people in to test is a very, very good thing. Is that a difficult tightrope for Blizzard to walk, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they didn't invite enough people, and there's such a, especially with Midnight specifically, with so many like system-wide changes of add-ons and classes and things like that. Like, right now is the prime time to get feedback. Like, once we get into beta, it's like, yeah, you can give feedback, but like, is it too late at that point, especially for sweeping changes? So really, a lot of people just get a lot of information through content creators and tweets and Wowhead posts and MMO Champion posts and things like that, and it's just like, it's all third party. Like, they're not actually interacting with this. Like, someone can't really give like survival hunter feedback on a class they haven't played with the changes, right? They just kind of read about it and heard some idiot talking about it. It's just like, it's really tough, and I think they should invite more people. But I don't even know if it's like a server issue. Like, I don't know if the servers would just melt if they invited too many. But the thing is, like, you could invite 1,000 people, and maybe 1,000 people will log in the first day, but then like give it 2 weeks, there'll only be like 200 out of that 1,000, right? Like people drop off very quickly.
Yeah, that is the thing with the alpha. People will inevitably drop off. They'll come in, they'll check it out, go, oh, that's cool, and then that'll kind of be it. They're not really in the testing mood. And I think that does change slightly more in beta, because you tend to have larger waves. More people will come in and be like, oh, I want to try out the new Mythic Plus, I want to try out the new raids, I want to try out the new dungeons. They'll be planning for that, but these early days, it definitely does feel as though again, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing for Blizzard to manage. And you touched upon add-ons there. I want to get your quick thoughts on these, because this has been a bit of a touchy subject inside the Warcraft community, or more specifically, what we're seeing through social media. As we know, social media, when it comes to video games, 99 times or 999 times out of 1,000 is very much a loud minority. The actual player base is much larger, doesn't really deal with these, doesn't really interact with stuff like this. But we're seeing a lot of opposing opinions on this. I'd love to get MrGM's opinion on the add-on situation. How do you feel about it? Do you feel as though, because some people are saying Blizzard should sort out the UI, then get rid of add-ons. Some people are saying get the band-aid off, get rid of add-ons, and then the UI will improve. How do you feel about it? How do you feel Blizzard have gone about this? And overall, do you feel as though this is a good thing for Warcraft in the long run?
I think for the long run, yes. I do think that perhaps the limitations are a bit much, but I think that's the whole point of alpha. They invite a lot of add-on devs, so they kind of blocked off a lot of stuff at the start. You can see now, like Alpha 2, they blocked off a bit less, and then in Alpha 3 coming up this week, they're doing even more. So I think really the community should get concerned when we get into beta and it's still like this. So I feel like right now it's sort of like a collaborative process with the add-on devs and things like that. I do think it's a little worrying that we haven't seen the damage meter yet. You'd think there'll maybe be like a rough version of it or something like that, but there's literally like one line of code in the game files and no art assets. So you're like, that's kind of strange. So that's a bit worrying, but I don't know. I think it's just one of those, really. People have definitely skies falling, like they're going to delete all the things or something, or, my handy notes is going to be buggered. It's like, it's not really like that. I think there's a lot of misinformation as well, where people think that every add-on's going to die and they're just removing all of it and they're going to consoles and mobile, which is neither of those things are true. At least not right now. I don't know. I think it's fine. To be honest, for me, I don't have combat add-ons anyway, so it doesn't really affect me, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect like tons of people. I do like with the boss mod thing, like they're making their own boss mods, right? But then bigwigs have literally started developing their version, whereas essentially like it's taking the information that Blizzard provide, because that's what they're going to provide, and then reskin it into bigwigs. So when I did a boss on the alpha, I was like, it just felt like bigwigs, right? It's like it was fine.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case with a lot of these, is that we'll see skins instead of add-ons. So, for example, you've got the Blizzard. I have a theory, by the way, about the Blizzard DPS meter that I'll get to in a second. But it'll be like, oh, here's a details skin for the Blizzard damage meter, or as you mentioned, here's a bigwigs or DBM skin for the Blizzard timeline. I'm interested in the bigwigs thing because obviously the information that they're getting is them being input into this bigwigs sort of style add-on. I'm wondering if there's going to be any form of delay or any form of latency with that. That's quite interesting. But I think the reason why, or one of the reasons why, this is tinfoil hat. We're in tinfoil hat territory here. The feeling that I have with the damage meter is the reason why they haven't put it in yet is because they've changed so much with classes in regards to pruning abilities, and we've seen people talking about 2-button rotations, and it's very, very evident that they have changed a lot with classes. I'm wondering if the reason that they haven't put in the new damage meter is because they don't want people taking these early numbers, like in week 2 of the alpha, as gospel and being like, oh, this class is doing X amount of damage compared to this class is dead. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think they want people to be looking at the feel, at the rotation, at how the class themselves play, rather than the current numbers. So that's a tinfoil hat theory. Are there any MrGM tinfoil hat theories with this alpha currently?
That's not a bad thought, really, actually. Considering they had like a preview of it on their little slides and stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, we saw exactly what it looked like. So, and I think it looked quite nice. I don't see. I mean, I don't really have that many add-ons. The only thing I have weak auras, but the cooldown manager has pretty much taken over those. That the only thing I'd like to see added into the cooldown manager. I don't know if it's something that is accessible yet. I'd love to see trinket procs be put into the cooldown manager. I think that would be very, very cool. But outside of that, I use details. I don't use any UI because I think with the edit UI that we've had over the past couple of years, that's pretty much taken any need that I had for a UI add-on. With the timeline that we're getting with bosses, I think that's going to take most of what I get from things like DBM and bigwigs, the DPS meters that we're getting from Blizzard. I think they are. I'm in the camp of they are doing a pretty solid job. I like what they're doing. I just feel as though a little bit more customizability would be nice, specifically nameplates. Nameplates, I feel like, need some work currently. Are there any of the changes that you've seen, sort of like, I mean, we haven't seen the damage meter, but nameplates, boss mods, is there anything that you are not, you feel as though they could do more with?
Yeah, definitely the nameplates. If they could get the level of customization that Plato could do, then yeah, that'd be sick. I think, to be honest, like Plato will probably continue on as just a skin for the information that they provide with the nameplates. Well, at least I hope so anyway, because I know a lot of people like the way that their specific nameplates look. I'm a default UI enjoyer, so I think it's everything's great. But no, you're right. With the cooldown manager, like the trinket thing has been a request for probably the beginning of it being there. Like they're making more changes to it. They're making like have sounds and things like that on it, which is great. But yeah, trinkets would be cool. With the damage meter, actually, it's funny. I was talking about this on stream. I was just like, there's not really a ton of stuff they can mess up with the damage meter. Like, as long as it's got, beyond like the appearance that people might not like, I don't know, but like, as long as it's providing the information that you need, healing, damage, whatever, and you can broadcast it or compare it, then that's literally all it needs to do, right? There's not, damage meters aren't that complicated really in that regard.
You say that. I think my favorite theory with you mentioned that, and it's quite interesting because I think my favorite thing with the damage meter is people saying, and I've seen people genuinely say this, that they believe that it's a bad idea because Blizzard will be able to fudge the numbers to make certain classes and specs look better than they actually are, so they don't have to worry about balancing. The legitimate thing I have seen.
No one's saying that. It can't be. That's ridiculous. But it is the WoW community, so they're, to be fair.
I mean, I've seen weirder tinfoil hat theories, but yeah. I've legitimately seen that, and I think it's, I mean, obviously it's such a small minority that are saying stuff like that, and I think anyone that has any sort of sense or has obviously played the game has played the game for a while is not going to listen to any of that or even believe anything along those sort of lines. You mentioned earlier, just quickly, the idea that WoW's going to mobile or to console or something like that. Do you feel as though, even if we're not going to console, even if we're not going to anything similar to that, do you feel that the way that they have, I don't want to say dumbed down because that's the wrong term to use, but reduced rotations, reduced the amount of abilities that have 3 different procs and you've got to time it with something else? Do you feel as though they've done that as a way to make the game more open to new players? Because they've spoken a lot about this isn't, this whole World Soul saga isn't just about closing up the last 20 years of World of Warcraft, but a way to set the next 20 years of World of Warcraft. Do you think as though it's a way for them to introduce new players without them immediately becoming overwhelmed? Because that is a genuine concern for a lot of people in regards to the future of the player base of Warcraft.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. with the add-on removal or restrictions and simplifying the classes and not really simplifying the talents, actually, they're still super complicated, but everything else I think it's all a sort of way to be a better experience for new players. Like they're redoing the new player experience as well with Exile's Reach, and then you do like a pretty on rails Dragonflight, and then into an on rails War Within to take you into Midnight. But yeah, it definitely seems that way. I personally love it. It's so great. You can just pick up a new class now on Alpha and be like, hey, how does this rotation work? And you stick on the gameplay, the highlight thing that tells you, the rotation in a rough about way, and you can be like, okay, I can figure this out pretty quickly. They redid Survival, and I've never played Survival before, but I picked it up pretty quickly, which I think was kind of a testament to what they're doing. They did remove some abilities I liked, but they also added the ability to transmog. What is it? One-handers into two-handers into one-handers, right? With warriors, that's
Yes.
the thing they did, yeah.
Yes,
Because it's so funny.
Fury. It was a talent that has been dead for the longest time.
No one ever wanted single-minded fury. They just wanted to be able to transmog it.
That's all we wanted. That's all we needed, and they finally managed to give it to us. Which, it's taken effectively almost the end of the world. Which I feel as though we've had many of those for Azeroth over the past 2 decades. So we'll wrap up here. But before we go, I just want to get your thoughts, both as a fan of the series, as a content creator. As someone who's been doing this for a relatively long time, who's been playing the game for a long time, how do you feel Midnight and, more expansively, the World Soul Saga has been so far, from seeing what we've seen on the Alpha, the lead-in from the War Within, and hopes for the Last Titan? How are you feeling as a content creator and as a fan?
It's a little overwhelming at the minute, actually. There's a lot of WoW going on with Remix and 2.7 and Alpha and all this other stuff, but yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. Honestly, like BlizzCon next year, if they announce Classic Plus, then hey man, the World Soul Saga might have to take a back seat, if you know what I mean. Like, yeah, it's been good. It's been overwhelming because there's just been constant flow of content. From a content creator point of view, it's like one patch comes out, then the next PTRs open that day or the next day or something, and so it's just like shit, like it just never stops. But that's great. I like being busy. I like what I do, so it makes me excited for it. Like we could talk for hours about how half-cooked the patches have been in regards to like quality on day one, and how they make changes and pretty major changes to like acquisition of currencies and with the way systems work pretty rapidly, which is a bit of a shame, which kind of makes PTR a little bit pointless, I guess, to a sense, but whatever. Overall, it's been decent. I think looking back, the War Within will probably be looked at as a pretty decent expansion beyond patch 11.05, which I don't know what they were thinking with that, but whatever. Which was the anniversary one. That was such a strange decision.
That was an odd one, that one was. It really was weird. Very strange.
But yeah, beyond that, I think the patch has been a banger. The expansion, sorry. The raids have been sick. The dungeons have been good. The zones have been pretty unique and different across the board. But as said at the beginning, Midnight, it's like the theming is just all about it. Like, it's so much better, and it makes me excited. And I love Alpha and Beta. It's like my favorite time of the year.
It's like Christmas for us. We just get to constantly unwrap new things, and maybe we'll get. It's weird that I was thrown last week because I've always known alpha patches to be on a Thursday. Alpha patches for me, like they've always been a Thursday thing, and it was thrown up last Wednesday, and I was so unprepared for it. So this time I'm going to be a little bit more prepared for that one. But thank you so much for joining me here today. It is, of course, 2 minutes to midnight. We are very, very close. For the folks that have listened, that for some reason have been living under a rock and don't know where to find you, where can they find you or your content online?
I tweet 100 times a day on twitter.com/MrGMYT. Stream most of the time during the week on twitch.tv/MrGM. And then you can just type in MrGM on YouTube. I'm sure my face will come up. Actually, probably not my face. Just
He's
some
kind of
random
a big
video.
deal. He's kind of a big
I'm
deal.
not a big deal. Definitely not a big deal. It's just a really shitty name that no one else has. So that's why it comes up. So yeah, find me online if you want.
Yes, you absolutely should. Well, thank you so much for joining me here. Next week, obviously, we will have another 2 minutes to midnight, so be sure to tune in for that one. Same time, same place. Thank you, everybody. I'll speak to you folks soon.